answered. Super excited to be here today. We have some great information, some great resources that we're rolling out for you today. I see so many familiar faces. Hi, Donna. Hi, Renee. Hi, Terry. Hi, Erica. Hi, Greg. Hi, Sue. I just saw you yesterday. If I don't know you, if I've never met you, please make sure that we connect somehow. I know there's a whole lot of people that registered. I want to give them a few more minutes to come in and not miss out on the recap of last month and what's going to happen today. So we're going to give it a couple more minutes. Again, if you could rename yourself first and last name so that we know who you are, that would be really great. Thank you for being here. I know I don't look like Lisa Rowe, but I'm going to channel my inner Lisa today for y'all. She's actually traveling for work right now. Okay, we're going to get started. As I said, my name is Karen Barbito. I'm the Special Project Manager for Support After Abortion, and I'm going to be your host today. We're so glad that you're here. We have some of our support team here, Kylie, the COO of our company, and Ivy, Lisa's executive assistant. So, and we have Greg Mayo here, who's part of our men's task force. So you are going to be well taken care of today. In case you couldn't attend last month's meeting, I just want you to know that it was live streamed on our Support After Abortion Facebook page. This recording is also being live streamed and recorded. So if there's somebody that you know that could benefit from watching it, please let them know where they can find it. Last month, we talked about, if you remember, if you were here, memorializing children and why that's an important part of the healing process. And we said to you that we had certificates of life that you could use when you're facilitating a group or doing one-on-ones, or if your clients wanted to do that themselves at their own pace. So we have upped our game. We've created 10 new certificates for you, and they're beautiful. I think that Kylie maybe will have a link for you at the end when she gives like all kinds of information in the last 10 minutes or so. If you could mute yourself, that would really be helpful so everybody can hear what's being said. At the end, if we're going to ask questions, I'll invite you. You can raise your hand and I'll invite you to unmute yourself so that we can hear your question live. So we have those resources. We called it a recognition of life certificate, and there's a whole bunch of varieties of them. There's some for men, some for women to memorialize their children. It just brings dignity to the life. There's some that are religious, some that are more secular, just whatever would meet your needs. So today, I'm so excited to announce that we are launching our abortion healing provider referral directory. So excited. 3 things that I want to tell you about this. 1, it's a way for you to refer a client to the services that they're requesting that perhaps you don't offer yet, right? So it's a win for you because you're connecting a client to the healing that they're looking for. You also, on the other end, will be receiving referrals from other people. If you have your profile updated and you have your information in there, all of the options that you offer, then people can find you and make referrals to you. And the third win is for that client because we're respecting where they are, we're meeting them where they're at, and we're connecting them to the healing that they're asking for. Right? So it's a win-win-win. And the person that's been working on this with me and our team for so long is with us today. His name is Jeff Baker. Let me tell you a little bit about Jeff. Jeff has been working in the website world since 1996. He launched his digital marketing company, Shoes Optional, LLC, in 2014, with the goal of building websites that will help clients share their business and their passion with the world. Throughout the last several years, Jeff and his Shoes Optional team have been rolling out their own proprietary digital marketing roadmap that helps businesses and organizations dominate in their respective industries. Jeff's entrepreneurial experience and passion for emerging technology allows him to meet the ever-changing requirements of today's business world head on. So without further ado, I'm going to hand it over to Jeff, who's going to introduce you to our directory.
Awesome. Thank you, Karen. That's a great introduction. I didn't realize I did all that stuff. No, I'm kidding. I do a lot of that and have a lot of fun doing it. So thank you for allowing me to be part of the webinar today and just to kind of share some things. Obviously, one of the main goals, if you look at anything to do with support after abortion, one of their passions is the concept of building capacity to help those in need. And so part of that is not only revamping the website this year, redoing quite a bit of content and messaging, but also making sure we have additional resources that can allow people to get help for things like after support healing. It's targeted towards men, women, and friends and family, those who might have been impacted on some level. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at a couple things today. So let me go ahead and share my screen, and I'll go through a couple thoughts here, and then we'll get going. So let me see what we have. Let me pull that up. And all right, so here goes our share. All right. So we're going to talk about what's called the Abortion Healing Provider Referral Directory. It's a mouthful, but it's very accurate in what it does. So support after abortion, obviously in their passion to build that capacity, we decided there's got to be a way to allow people to find the resources, connect providers to other resources that are in either nearby or globally. You'll find that through our network, as it continues to grow, this will have a global footprint. So if you are serving clients literally anywhere in the world, there will most likely at some point be a resource for them to be able to access. So here's what we're going to take a look at today. We're going to go through a couple things. We're just going to do a quick flyover of how the process works. So one of the things about any search directory, there's always nuances to it. So one of the things will be, how can we get the best search results possible? So if you're literally on the phone with somebody and you're trying to find a resource and you're using the directory to locate something, there are going to be times when you run into no results found, for example. And so how do we improve our search capabilities? How do we look at improving that so you can get the best possible thing? And again, as it grows, there's going to be more and more resources. There'll be less and less likelihood that you're going to not get any results. But right now we have about a little over 150 people in the system. And if you are part of that network already, you've most likely updated your profile. We're actually going to talk about that as part of this today too, of making sure that your profile is as accurate as possible. The more accurate your information is on the system, the more likelihood that we will be able to use that information to connect people well within the provider network. The other part is if you get stuck, we're always here to help. And so one of our email addresses that's available to you is partners@supportafterabortion.com. So kind of keep that in the back of your mind. But that's if you get stuck somewhere, if your profile doesn't work, if something happens, email that and somebody on our team will be able to help you out as best as possible. And then last but not least, we're going to take a look a little bit about how do you get the word out? If you know other providers out there that provide abortion healing support, then there's going to be some ways that you can recommend them to us. And we do have a somewhat of a vetting process where we want to make sure we understand what their programs are, what they offer, so that we can then go ahead and add them to our system and do that. And then finally, at the very end, there'll be a little bit of time for question and answer. If there's things that you're curious about, if there's features that you would like to see down the road, maybe some of those types of things, we can ask questions then. But let's go ahead and kind of take a look here. So what we have is, and I've already mentioned this, is the main focus of why we have this network is to build capacity, right? So what we're going to do is I'm going to switch screens here and we're going to dive in and actually go through a live example on the site. So let me pull that up and we'll go right into it here. So right now, this is sort of a hidden link at the moment. And what I mean by that is this is behind the scenes, it's live, the world can see it, but it's not linked to anything up here yet. So eventually we're going to actually put this right under here where it says healing providers. Right now it says directories, but what we'll ultimately say is it will say abortion healing provider referral directory will be under the healing provider tab. And when you get there, this is the starting page. The good news is if you come to this page, you're going to already see that there's 150 plus providers in the network. And as you scroll, you're going to see some that have fairly complete profiles with logos and contact information. And then you're going to see some that don't. And again, as we grow, we're going to have more and more people updating their profiles and getting that as accurate as possible. So to really take advantage of this, you can either just scan through what's already there and just go page by page. Obviously, 150 providers is a lot to go through, but if you're looking for something specific, we want you to start right here. So in our little search filter, if you click on that, it expands some options. And there's a lot of different search capabilities. If you already know a provider and you know the name of that provider, you can go ahead and search by either provider name. So for example, you could search for support after abortion and our profile would show up. However, it also does a little bit of a keyword search. So in their profile, if they have the term support after abortion, it will actually bring that profile forward as one of the options there. And then we also have other things here where we have the ability to pull up different categories. So we can either search by female or male or friends or family. This is kind of the big bucket. So think about it in terms of starting the search as high as possible and then narrowing it down. So we usually start with these two things. So if you're helping somebody that's either male or female, friends and family, right now we don't have anybody in that. So I'm going to actually use that to show you what a results not found might look like. And then also under here, we have, you can search and narrow by an actual location, and there's actually radius information there as well. And let me see what's going on here. So what we'll do is we're just going to do a quick search by friends or family, and I'm going to go ahead and just use that without narrowing the search at all. And so what's going to happen is there is one that actually we do have, and this is an example profile that I've been working with just to show how some of this works. So if I just did friends and family, you'll see that it actually has, it serves female friends and family if you hover over this. You can also just quickly get to their contact information right here on the profile. Or if you click into the profile, you'll find a lot more information. And this is going to give you a little bit of an idea of how some of this works for the providers. So again, the programs that they offer are typically going to be more abortion-minded groups, religious. There's a whole bunch. We'll show you what those look like here shortly. You have the ability to have a description, some information about that profile. And then also what you'll have is the ability to look at any of their contact information, any of their social profiles, and go from there. And then if there's a video, we do allow a link to both YouTube and Vimeo type videos where you can plug those in, and it gives you the ability to give more of a quick profile or quick intro about what your program is, what you offer. And then down here is the map. The map has a little bit more information on it as far as like, how to get directions if they need it, or they can click in and find and zoom out and kind of get better idea of how to get to your location. Now, just to give you a quick heads up, there is a little formatting issue I'm seeing here today. This is usually full screen, so I'll just kind of let you know that actually is a little bit wider than what you typically would see on the screen, or what you would typically see on the screen is wider than what we see at the moment. So that's one way to do a quick search. The other option is if I do go in here and I start my search over, I can either get rid of friends and family, I can do female. And then if I do a search by radius, so I can do a search by, say, Venice, Florida. If I click on this, it's going to bring this radius option up for me. And I can say, you know what, I want to see if there's something maybe within 60 to 80, maybe 90 miles. And you can narrow it down even farther. What we found is that if you increase the mileage a little bit, you're going to definitely find more resources. And I don't even have to put any programs offered at the moment. But again, these checkboxes are the different programs available. But if I hit search now, what you'll see is it will go ahead and bring any programs that are focused on helping female clients within a 90-mile radius of that particular zip code, that location. And now we have what looks like 11 providers. So as I scroll down, you'll see, 11 different profiles you can take a look at. Again, you'll see that there's an option to quickly see their contact information right on this screen. Or if you click into it, it will again go further into that profile where you can get additional information, social media links if they have them updated, videos if they're available, all that contact information. So this is kind of how the search works. We are putting a lot of those finishing touches on it. So there are a few little things that I'm seeing in our presentation that are being fixed as we're doing it. But the other part is if we actually do not find any results. So let me go ahead and do that. So say, for example, I did, 0 miles from Venice, Florida, and I did, actually, let me just do, Greenville, South Carolina, which is near where I'm at. If I do a search, it may not bring anybody within 0 miles. And if it doesn't, all right, so this is what I wanted. So see where it says no listings found? Basically, that means that we don't have anybody within 0 miles of Greenville. We might have somebody a little bit spread out, but that's why we have this header up at the top. So up at the top here, it says, here's some tools about how you can navigate the search a little bit better. So if we click on that, it's a little pop-up. We have a video that talks about a lot of what I'm talking about today of how to get the best results for your search and your strategy. There's some other things, broadening and doing that. So this little pop-up window will give you some really quick information. And then if you don't see a provider that you think should be part of our network, we actually have a button up here that says recommend a provider. It's going to take you to the contact page. And that's where you'd fill it out and just say, hey, would it be, would you guys be able to reach out to, or I think this provider would be a really good asset to the provider network. And we would go ahead and begin that process of trying to get them on board as well. So that's the search tool as a whole. And again, we'll talk a little bit about that if you have some questions, we'll get to that here in a minute. The next question really becomes, how do you if you haven't updated your profile yet, or you need to update your profile, how do you do that? So I'm going to switch over to this tab. If you just go to our regular supportafterabortion.com, in this upper right-hand corner between the About section and the Give button, there's a little profile icon. If you hit the login button, if you don't have a login, let us know, and we'll make sure we tie your login to your profile if it's already in the system, or we'll attach it to that somehow. So what we have is, if we go into this section, by the way, this is a broader login function of our website. So if you've purchased things through the store, if you've been part of our provider training, if you've done some other things, we'll show you that. So when I log in as a user, I'm going to hit the login button. It's going to bring me to my dashboard screen. And this is where I can manage my account. So for example, if I want to change my name or my primary email that I'm using in my system, I can go ahead and change all of that right here. If for some reason you want to change your username, let us know. We can do that manually on our side, but typically your username in most cases will be your email address. Not always. You may have already had an account that didn't have an email address and it just had a regular username. You should be fine to use that. If you need to change your password for any reason, you have an option here under your profile. You can put a profile picture. Most people aren't going to see that, by the way. It's just a placeholder. But if you go ahead and use the change password, you can update your password so that it's easier to use for you. And again, as I mentioned, if you've already purchased things through our online store, you can manage that here. So if I click on this button, it's going to take me to any of my accounts, my past orders, any of that types of things there. The training center, if you've already been part of our training platform, this is how you would access any of the training that you've already signed up for, or potentially sign up for additional training if you're interested. What the purpose of our login today is to go ahead and go into the profile that would be set up. So down here, the provider directory, if I go ahead and click on this, it's going to take me into my profile that is tied to my login. Some of you, if you have multiple locations and you need to manage multiple profiles, we can set it up so that when you get to this screen, you would see all of your different locations and different options there. So let us know if you have multiple locations that need to be managed. We'll help you get that taken care of. Again, you're going to use that partners at supportafterabortion.com to reach out to that. So this is just the one I've been using as a test profile. If I hit the edit button, it's going to give me all kinds of things to make sure. So this is the important part for everybody that's on this webinar today. We really, really value accuracy in data. The more accurate the data we have, the better chances of helping those looking for support. better chance we're going to get them plugged in, right? So again, title, this is your organization name. So make sure you have that spelled exactly the way it needs to show up. Down here, again, this is your description. You can use certain font elements. Just as a caution on that, I would recommend that you don't get crazy with your profile fonts. Like, don't do a bunch of weird colors and all that stuff. You can do some heading levels, for example. You can do some bold, italic, and some bullets. But just use the profile is really meant to give people a really quick overview of what your organization's about, the types of things you help with. And you can also even add additional contact information in here. Your profile allows you to have 2 phone numbers. We're going to look at that in a second, and 1 email address as part of the profile. But you can add additional stuff in this text box if you need to direct people in different options, right? So again, this is your description. You can have a tagline. It shows up briefly a little bit under your profile name. So I just use healing one day at a time. This is very important. Your location is going to be based on the location of this primary office. If you have multiple locations in different states, then I would set up a profile for each one, because we're going to use that as the part of how that radius search works. But this is based on actual states and countries and other things. So if your state or country isn't in here, all the states are here, by the way, but if your country or other things aren't in here that you need to be tied to, let us know and we'll add those. That's your location. The other part is these are all the tags. So they're called tags, but what they are on the front end, what we describe them as, are programs that you provide. So if you look in this drop down, you'll see that a lot of these coincided with some of the emails that Karen had sent out about getting your profile added in the first place. You'll see a lot of these are the same. So anything that is true about your organization. So if you do after abortion healing, if you do things that are in English or Spanish, if you have, a helpline or in person, or it's a pregnancy center, make sure you check every one of these so that they all show up here. So you want this box to be as full of the actual tags and programs that you offer, so that, again, if somebody's searching for that, your results will show up. And again, the category is really, are you focused on male, female, or friends and family? If you do all 3, that's great. But sometimes some organizations may be only focused on helping women heal, right? Or maybe you're focused more on helping men heal as well. Just make sure your category is accurate on how you do that. Down here is extremely important. So your postal code, your zip code, is kind of part of how that radius search starts to work. Your phone number, you have a primary and secondary phone number you can fill in. We do ask and recommend that you use this format here for your phone number with the dashes, because if somebody's on a mobile device and they hit that number, it's actually going to flip over to their phone, and it's going to be able to dial that number directly without a lot of weird formatting issues. So try to use the area code dash and then the rest of the phone number the way it is there. If you have a fax number, go ahead and put that in there. People can access that. This email address is extremely important. This will be the primary email address that people will use to contact your organization. So make sure that that is accurate. A lot of times people have like an info at, or they'll have a, support at type of an email that allows people to connect initially. And then your website, very important. As much as possible, use the full website address with the HTTPS and all that in there. It makes it a lot easier to format it and make it easy to click on. And then here are your social media options. So if you have multiple accounts, you can add as many as you want. Not all accounts are represented here, but a lot of them are. So the big ones like Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and several others are all in here. But if we need to add additional social media things down the road, let us know. We can look into that. The map is very important. This is where you actually want to put your exact address in here. And as you start to type it in, you'll notice that it actually brings a drop down here. And this is what you want to click on when you're adding your address. The reason why is it triggers the Google map to go ahead and put the marker right here in the middle. And it actually, it kind of also helps with the radius search, because it actually gives the what we call the latitude and longitude coordinates that it uses for that radius to actually work. If for some reason Google doesn't put it in the right place and you happen to know your own latitude and longitude, you can actually come down here and put your own latitude and longitude in. I would highly recommend that you don't do that because most of us don't have any idea what that is, but you can, if you need to update if Google is not positioning you correctly, then you can manually override that if you need to, right? And then down here is where you are able to put your primary photo, which is typically your logo, but you can also add additional photos if you have like a slideshow, or if you want to add some additional kind of depth to your profile, you can add a couple more photos. There's a maximum of 5 files allowed. And then, as we mentioned, down here is your video. So if you have a YouTube or a Vimeo channel, you can just copy the share link in here. Once you do that, you come down here, check those 2 boxes because it's going to ask you to, but this is our privacy policy and terms and conditions. And this preview changes really is basically a save button. What it's going to do is it's going to save it, and it should bring you back into this profile here where we just started from. Now, again, if you have more than one location while you're in here, you can actually hit the submit location or submit listing option. And this is also a link we can send to you if you need to add your profile. If it's not in the system at this point, we can send another link to this, but this submit listing will actually open up basically, and I'll do it here. It opens up a blank screen where you put in all the information we just walked through. So we'll go ahead and share that with you if you need it, but that's basically how our provider network works. So we have the front end is over here, and this is how the search our provider network starts. This is our starting page right here, and this is where we begin to narrow the search and view. You can sort different ways as well. So right now you can sort things differently. You can view them even as a list or a grid or a map. There's a lot of functionality here. But overall, most people are just going to quickly come in here. They're going to either type in a name, search by radius, look at a program that might be offered, and hit the use search options or search, and it will go ahead and begin that entire process. So that gives us a very high flyover of what we're doing. And so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of pause there and open it up for any questions or answers. And hopefully you have questions, and I think hopefully I'll have the answers.
Jeff, thank you so much for that. That was very informative. I've been working so closely on this with you, and there's things in here that I didn't know that you had created that are really outstanding. So thanks for surprising me as well. Yeah. I have a question. As you were going through the profile part of it, tell us why building out that profile with a logo and with a description of what you provide and what maybe your mission and vision is, and making sure that you look through all of those tags, because there's a lot more than just those 4 tags. Where up here at the top where it says show more, there's like, I don't know, 9 or 10 tags. Make sure that you're including all the options. Why is that so important for them to build?
That's a really good question. Well, and here's an example of that, right? So if I'm looking at a list of results, I'm going to be drawn to the ones that actually have a logo and have a lot more information, right? Some of the ones that are just kind of sitting out there at the moment that haven't really been updated, we just have this placeholder logo saying that they're a support provider with support after abortion. So we do have a little bit of that there. But what's happening is if you don't have your logo, then your profile has a tendency to be just kind of bland, and it just kind of fades in the background. The more information you have, the more likelihood you're going to get some better results. Obviously, the other part is making sure that if you're focused on helping male or female clients or friends and family, making sure that's accurate as much as possible, because that is going to influence what type of results people see on the screen. And then having all those programs that you offer checked and make sure they're part of your profile is going to be extremely important as well.
Let me just follow up on that, Jeff, because we didn't talk about, we have the categories where it's a multiple choice kind of situation. You have to choose women, you have to choose men, family members. You might have to do multiple searches if you have men and women that you're working for. But on the tags, which we call them, which is like the options that you offer, it's a checkbox. So what can happen with that, Jeff? When somebody searches on something that they think is really specific, and then when they click on the profile of the company, they find that they're not really offering what they thought they were offering. Can you address?
That's a really good thing. So let me let me pull that part up and kind of walk through what you're talking about there. So if I do use these checkboxes to search, and these are supposed to be in a different order here, they're supposed to go down the page. I'm fixing that as we're talking, but basically what this does is even if I check multiple boxes, it's important to understand that this is not saying, hey, I'm only going to show results of abortion-minded option peer counseling and groups. What it's going to do is it's going to show me anybody that offers abortion-minded peer counseling and also offers groups. So it's going to bring back multiple results. So if I just search for that and I say, okay, I want something that's focused on female, and I use that search criteria, I should get quite a number of results because I'm focused on, again, yeah, so we had 59 providers and I didn't use a location. All I did was these search options here, abortion-minded, groups, and female. And so all of these definitely offer female, but some of these may also, like this one says female +1, which is the male as well. So they offer it for both male and female. But if I go into, let's use an even place here, they have a logo. So if I go into here, this may offer, they do offer after abortion, and they also offer groups. So this actually kind of meets a little bit of that criteria, but they also do that for male and female both, right? So yeah, it's very important to have that as accurate as possible, because that will allow people to most likely find what they're looking for.
Thank you, Jeff. We have some hands raised here, so I'm going to go ahead and ask Jill Marquis to unmute herself and ask your question to Jeff.
Okay, first of all, this is fabulous. Oh my gosh, kudos, huge kudos. My question is, how will you keep the information up to date? Does that fall back on the provider? Or is there something in your system that's going to trigger like, hey, you guys need to come update your stuff?
That's a really good question. Right now, it is as much as possible, we are giving the keys back to each provider to maintain their information for accuracy. Obviously, with several hundred profiles already, that could be a daunting task for us to try to follow up and manage that. Ideally, each provider should really do that. I would say maybe off and on throughout the year, we may do spot checks and make sure that the providers are doing what they can. But ideally, that should be something that maybe in your own calendars, I would recommend just maybe putting every 2 or 3 months or every 6 months, a little pop-up on your calendar that says, hey, oh, go check my profile and make sure everything's still accurate. That would be ideal if everybody would do something similar to that.
Thank you so much, Jill. I see Debbie Tilden's hand. Debbie, would you unmute yourself and ask your question?
Yes. Yes, again, awesome. Kudos to you guys doing this. Specific to location, and can we put as vague as a state? I don't do a lot out of my home office. A lot is virtual, and we can be a rescue home sometimes. So I really don't want my home address out there most of the time. So can we just, how specific does that have to be? Can I do a PO box?
Yeah, that's a really good question. You're absolutely right. A lot of providers don't have a physical location. So we actually have one option that is focused more on what we would call the virtual. So if you don't have a physical address, we actually have one of the options here that says virtual. Well, actually, that's the program's offer, but you can, instead of for your location, you can actually set that to,
Perfect.
Let me show you here, like under location, if you did virtual only, there's an option that says virtual only. That would be recommended. And then you wouldn't really have to worry about any of this other stuff, like your postcode or your map address. You wouldn't need to put anything in those two options.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you, Deb. Donna, I see that you have your hand raised. Would you unmute yourself and ask your question?
Okay, so when you first go into your profile, it's asking for a username and password. How do we get that username and password?
Yeah, that's a good question. If you done anything within our system before, whether you've purchased something through our store or done any of our provider training, then you will have a username and password. Or you will have an email address that you would log in for the training, for example. So if you have that, but you don't have a profile attached to it, go ahead and email providers at supportafterabortion.com, or is it plural or singular, y'all? Is it provider or providers?
We have providers and partners.
And partners. Okay. Yeah. So let's use providers at supportafterabortion.com and let us know what your login email typically is. And if we need to set up an account, we can also do that through that process as well. And then tie it either to a profile if there's one in the system, or begin the process of setting up a new profile for you.
All right. Thank you.
Uh-huh.
Are there any other questions?
Karen, there are a couple of questions in the chat if you would look at those.
Okay.
And Shauna just raised her hand.
Okay, why don't we go with Shauna? Unmute yourself, ask your question while I look to see about the questions in the chat.
Yeah, I'm so sorry. I was a little bit late joining, and so my question may have already been answered, but this database, is it just for providers? Like if we would get a phone call for us to refer somebody to something near them, or individuals looking for help can just do a search on this website and find what they're needing?
That's a good question. We had some original discussion about making this a password protected area that's only for providers, but the kind of the fallout of that dialogue is that if somebody is looking for help and they're able to access the directory, now it is going to be under that part of the healing providers. It's going to be under here, an area called directory, or the full name of the search. So it will be sort of more focused on a tool for you guys to use, but anybody can use it. Honestly, it'll be open for anybody that wants to use it. It's just whether or not they will find it here specifically.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah,
Yes.
and I'd like to speak to that for just a moment as well. We are seeing at Support After Abortion a growing number of our potential clients who have a lot of fear around reaching out to abortion healing providers, and they have shared a desire to be able to directly connect with a provider in their area, or who suits their particular needs and search criteria. So we do hope that this will be a huge win for providers to connect with clients in that way.
Yeah, thank you, Kylie, for that. There's a couple of questions in the chat, and then I see a couple of hands raised. This is great engagement and conversation, y'all. So I really appreciate your participation. How do you add more than one tagline, Jeff?
Yeah, so that's a good question. There is only room for one tagline here. But if you wanted to add maybe more quotes or little things like that, you could do it in your profile. So if you wanted to come down here and add, another tagline of some sort, you can always, highlight the tagline and make it like a different heading level, and it would stand out that way. You can even, make it bold or italic, and that way it would highlight that. Sometimes you can even put it at the very top of the page or top of your profile, and then all the other information's below. But this tagline only has room for one option.
Thank you, Jeff. And we have another question. It says, I'm working on setting up a website. I haven't completed directory profile because of that. Can she go ahead and set up her profile even if she doesn't have a website?
Yes. Yeah, I would go ahead and do that. And then all you would do is on this field that has website, just leave it blank. Sometimes people, honestly, instead of website, you can even link it to your Facebook profile or whatever there. Ideally, you would want to do that as a social media link down here, but you could also put it there as a temporary placeholder.
Awesome. Thank you, Jeff. Mary Jean, I see that you have your hand up. Would you like to ask your question?
Yes, ma'am. I am in the process of volunteering to be a volunteer at support after abortion and going through, I'm now at the point to have an interview. Is that part of this at all? Is that totally separate? Would it take the place of having a discussion about what we have to offer? I'm just confused.
So Mary Jean, help me to understand. You are onboarding as a volunteer with support after abortion.
Yes,
You know, in what capacity you're looking to volunteer?
I thought we were talking about support after abortion, recovery, healing.
Okay.
The
So support after abortion is represented in this directory, and as a volunteer support after abortion, you would be represented through our agency. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. Should I then, because we will also offer things here locally, set up a profile as
Yes.
well as being covered?
Yes. If you
Okay.
have your own ministry that offers abortion healing, yes, that would be separate from your volunteering at support after abortion.
Great. Thank you. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. Shauna, you have your hand up. Do you have a question?
I just guess I didn't put it down.
Okay, I thought maybe you had another question.
No.
Okay, we have another question here. It says, do people share their stories? I'm going to ask for a little clarification from Michael, if you could unmute yourself and give us a little bit more detail on what you're asking relative to this directory.
I'm wondering if a person tell their reason how they get this what occurred in their life in some manner, what kind of pointed them towards abortion, or kind of thoughts or ideas they got, and what brings them there, and the
Yes.
decision they make.
So really how this is going to be used is if you are in a location, let's say that you're part of a pregnancy center and someone comes in and through your process of intake, you find out that they've had an abortion and they're looking for a retreat model because they're busy and they can't spend weeks in a support group. And so you don't offer retreats. So you, as the provider, the pregnancy center, could come into this directory and find a retreat for them that might meet their needs. It would be during that. Yeah, I mean, certainly you can start the conversation with them about their woundedness and their abortion experience, and we encourage you to do that. But the actual healing process would be put into the hands of a retreat. Does that make sense, Michael?
Is there a high proportion of people who have abortion that need healing? Is there, you know what I'm saying? Is there a high proportion that people, they have an abortion? Is there a high proportion that turn to look for healing, or that makes sense?
Yeah, it does make sense. Kylie, do you have those statistics available from our consumer research? The percentage of men and women, if they knew where to go for healing, would reach out for that?
Yeah, so what we've learned through our research is that 82% of people who are impacted by abortion do not know where to go to receive the help that they desire. And we know that a third of people overall are hurting after abortion and desire to receive support. We've learned through our work that the support that they desire is varied and that it could come in many shapes and spaces over time. It's not one and done. So perhaps you would experience one element of healing that might later on reveal for you a desire to experience different healing. At our after abortion line, our team works with people who just want to have somebody listen to them in a phone call. And that may be their entire experience of healing that day. It may take them months before they reach out again to say, I'd like to join a group. I'd like to talk about this with my peers. And so we just see such a variety of people and their needs, and always want to step forward into supporting them and meeting them where they're at.
Thank you.
Sorry. Go ahead.
We have another question. Are you complete, Michael, or did you have something?
I'm good. Thanks very much.
Yeah, thank you, Kylie, for that. Jeff, there's been several questions about if I don't have a login or password, how do I get one? Could you go through that little person emoji and and explain to them again if they've ever purchased anything from our store or been part of our provider training hub, that they already have a username and password? Thank you,
Yeah,
Jeff.
that's a really good thing. So let me go ahead and do this. I'm going to log out. So if you go to supportafterabortion.com and you come up to this upper right-hand profile, you'll see an option that says log in when you hover over it. When you click on the login, it's going to give you an option, right? The first option is if you already have a username and password, you can do this by putting your username or email address in, hit your password, sign in, and you're ready to go. If you forgot your password, you can just go ahead and put your email address or username. If you click on forgot password, it will send you, based on either username or password, it will send it basically, or excuse me, username or email address, it will send that password to you, and then that will allow you to log in. It will give you what we call a reset password link, right? The other option is if you come here and you have not registered, you can go ahead and hit the registration process, the register right here. And it typically, it's going to take you to what's called our training registration form. We actually have, this is a lot of information that most of this is not currently required other than your name, your email address, and phone number. But you can use this to create your username and password. And once you log in, that's getting at least into the system. That doesn't necessarily mean your profile or your listing profile is going to be tied to that at that point. So what we would recommend is that once you create an account, let us know. And what we'll do is we'll go ahead and begin the process of trying to either find a profile if it's already in the system and link you to it, or if we need to have you start to create a profile, we'll go ahead and send you that link that says how to add a profile, and we'll show you how to do that in a little bit, or we'll send that out to you in a little bit.
Thank you so much, Jeff. I have time for one more question. Does anybody else have a question? If so, go ahead and unmute yourself or raise your hand.
I have a question. This is Michael Revore again.
Okay.
I'm wondering, I don't know if this is all going on a tangent, but I wonder if people who have had abortions and then going through the healing process, do they present themselves to other people who would think about getting an abortion?
Would they say that again, Michael? Would they present themselves to other people? I'm not understanding your question.
I mean, like giving a speech or at a meeting or something, and there's people who are considering an abortion, and if you have a person that already went through the abortion and has gone through the healing process, would a person that has healed present their idea, their story to prevent others from having abortion?
I understand your question now, Michael. That's a great question. So under receive healing on this page of the website where Jeff is, can you click on that, Jeff, receive healing? And down under the client healing center, we have little videos exactly talking about what you just asked. So we have videos for people that are considering an abortion, testimonies of people that have already had one. We have videos for people that have, back up a little bit, Jeff, to the top.
Sorry.
People that have experienced abortion and what that experience was like for them. So clients can come in here anonymously. There's no registration or no login necessary. Why don't you click on the considering an abortion one, Jeff, just so that they can see what the options are? So we have somebody who, go back up so I can see the titles of the videos. What you may experience after having an abortion, considering an at-home pill abortion, pregnant, making a sound decision. So these are really short videos that people that might be in a similar situation can come to. So we have developed that. We're building it out all the time, but this is what we have so far.
So how do you lead a person to that? I mean, I've been a witness where, man, a woman don't want to be told what to do with her body. And I think you people said it's more than meets the eye. I mean, there's a baby to consider, there's a woman to consider, and a husband or boyfriend.
So Michael, how about if we make a connection with Support After Abortion and you so that we can talk about these things individually? I'd be happy to have conversations with you or Greg Mayo. Greg is with us here today. From a man's perspective, he'd be happy to talk to you about some of the things that you're asking about. Would that be okay with you?
be okay, but I gotta get going soon, so you got
So
my,
maybe
sorry.
if you could put your email in the chat, that would be great. And we'll
Okay.
capture that. Ivy, make sure you capture his email, okay? Thank
Okay.
you, everyone, for all of the conversation. It's been really riveting. Kylie, I'm opening it up to you for announcements and next steps and all the great things that we have coming. So I'm turning it
Yeah.
over.
Thank you, Karen. I do have one question I really wanted to get answered for Sherry before we move on. Sherry asked if she can have more than one login per center. So if she has multiple team members that want to log in, is that possible?
At this point, we would request that you have a master login that manages all of your profiles. So you can have multiple profiles that tied to one login, but you can't have multiple logins with multiple profiles at this point.
Great, thank you. And Terry, your question asking us if we're going to direct clients to biblical or secular studies, we are focused on directing them to the resource that they need. So if they desire clinical, one-on-one, group, secular, religious, whatever really is appealing to them is where they're going to land first. And that may morph over time. They may desire something different the next time they encounter or seek healing, and we'll be there to direct them once again to perhaps a new resource or a different level of the existing resource that they're at. So Karen has invited me to talk to you about some next steps. And I can't believe that we're in November, I'm wearing long sleeves and it's cold, and we are just really focused on wrapping up the year, but already planning for 2023, as I'm sure each of you are. So as we wrap up the year, I really want to emphasize to you that we have launched this client care for clinicians. It's a meeting led by clinicians, Lisa Rowe and Greg Hassick. They have different topics every month. It feels a lot like this meeting, but it's clinical. And so if you have somebody on your team who is that clinical arm for your pregnancy center, or if you know of a clinician in your town that you're referring clinical level support to, this is the place where they're going to receive that training, because as Lisa and Greg will both speak, they did not receive that kind of training in school. They didn't receive it as they were doing internships. And this is kind of your one-stop shop for that kind of support. Next month, that meeting is on December the 20th, which is a Tuesday in the third week of the month. It's at noon, and it's going to be on the topic of the role of codependency in abortion experiences. And our very own Karen Barbito will be a special guest alongside Greg Mayo, who has been extremely quiet in this meeting, which is not like him, but I know he must be lurking in the shadows here. What I'm going to do is put the link in our chat for you to register yourself for that event. And of course, everything's available on replay in our provider training center. So be sure that you look for that. Next up is our abortion healing provider meeting, but next month, what we're going to talk about is remaining curious within the abortion healing process. One of the things that I've taken so much for granted is remaining curious and how to ask questions, because so much of my heart is to try to alleviate suffering. And sometimes I try to swoop in a little faster than what is appropriate for our situation. So we're going to have Lisa Rowe and Karen Barbito lead us in a conversation about remaining curious. I'm going to put that registration link in the chat, and you are going to click that too and sign yourself up. And then we have listened to you. We've heard you say that you want to learn how to lead Keys to Hope and Healing, or you want a refresher, but doing it week after week after week is just a little too spread out for some of you. Okay, me. And so what we've decided to do is to have it on the 13th, 14th, and 15th of December at lunchtime, so at noon Eastern Standard Time. And what we'll do is we'll go through that 6-step journey of introductory abortion healing with you. And we'll do it back-to-back days so that it's just like an immersion experience for you. And I think you're going to have a lot of fun with it. In 2023, like sneak peek, is that we're going to route people through this training, then through our certification course on our website. And then if you're offering Keys to Hope and Healing virtually, you're going to be a part of an inside track for us of people that we refer to when we have clients who need a virtual group, and people that we offer some special, just VIP, awesome training courses about how to lead a group, how to deal with that rogue group member who talks too long, and different other facets of conversations that are just particular to leading virtual groups. So we hope that you'll join us this week. Karen and Ivy are heading out to New York. So if you are in New York and you're going to that Pregnancy Center conference in New York, please, please, please say hi to Karen. She's a hugger. I'm just going to tell you now. So, everybody will be greeted with a big hug and, just excitement over being able to finally match faces to names in person, which is such a joy for us as we travel around the country. And that is our last big conference of the year. I don't know if you're like me, but I just am so excited about Christmas. So I hope that each of you have a good rest of November, a good happy Thanksgiving. And please email us at partners@supportafterabortion.com if you have any questions. And Karen's already wanting to ask one.
Yeah, the recognition of life certificates. Do we have a link for them, or is that coming? Will that be in the follow-up email?
It will be in the follow-up email. We wanted everyone. So our graphic designer, Cindy, has been working on this with a lot of input from our team about what it is that would speak to the hearts of a lot of different people walking through this kind of loss. And we're going to send you all of our templates. They're ready to fill in. You can use them with your team. And we look forward to getting your feedback on which one really resonated with you, because man, there are so many different ways to approach this type of certificate.
All right. Well, we have 2 minutes to go. We're going to let you out early, y'all.
All right. Thank
Use
you,
those
Karen.
2
Thank you,
minutes
Jeff.
wisely.
What an extraordinary day to be able to launch this.
Yes.
Thank you. Take care.
Thank you very much. God bless you.
God bless you too, Adria.